Well, there won't be any coal in Rutgers basketball stocking this Christmas. So there will be no coal in the stockings of Rutgers basketball as they pull off kind of almost a miracle victory as Santa Claus sent his best Santa's little helper and elf to put in some work as Tariq Francis hits a buzzer or almost hits a three almost at the buzzer with just under a second left to defeat Ivy League University of Pennsylvania 70-69 in a game that you kind of thought would wind up being a disastrous result. But we pull off, or Tariq pulls off the improbable Christmas miracle by defeating Penn in a game where he scored almost half the points, 34 points, 9 of 14 shooting, 15 of 19 from the foul line, which for us is tremendous. And, kind of, a replay of a Christmas-like miracle from when Ron Harper Jr. hit that buzzer beater 3 to defeat number 1 Purdue. This is nowhere near that level. But nonetheless, it kind of brings back glad tidings and how Rutgers fans and students and alumni should feel happy for those that were at Jersey Mike's. Nonetheless, this game actually went the way that I thought it would go. Yes, it's Penn, and we were, 9.5 point, 8, whatever the spread was. Thought it would be difficult, said it would be difficult because we would, despite being physically more gifted than Ivy League teams, we lost to Princeton a couple years ago, their discipline, ability to run their offense, hit their threes, shoot well, hit their free throws, not make mistakes, would give us a problem. And I kind of figured this would be a nip and tuck game, and it was. Well, actually Penn led most of the game for like 35 minutes, maybe more. We had tied it up in the second half, and I think we might have come close or almost tied it in the first half. I think we I think we led early, right? 2-0, whatever it was. But after being behind most of the game, and it looked like throughout that we were going to suffer our 4th loss in a row and another ridiculous loss to a low major. But it helps to be lucky sometimes because Penn's star player, TJ Power, I think was originally a Duke commit, so he went over to another academic institution to take his trade over there. He misses 3 free throws in the last 23 seconds, which kind of helped us out and put us on the road to an improbable victory, allowing Tariq to do his thing and pull out a rather improbable win for us. And we all felt, and you can admit to this, maybe less than, it was about 2 minutes left in the game, a little less than 2 minutes left in the game. But boy, you were like, this is going to happen, isn't it? And if we had lost to Penn, we were down, I think, 6 points. What was it? 68, 62, something like that. Less than 2 minutes left. And if we had lost by 6 or 7 points, despite what the contract says, despite when anybody, thinks about what Kelly Zinn wants to do, Steve Pikiell's seat would have been really, really warm. Nonetheless, Penn starts, they take a 4 or 5 point lead into halftime, and Tariq was the offense in the first half. He had like 14 points in the first half. And then Penn expands the lead, beginning of the second half, hitting the first 4 points. And then J. Mike hits a 3, gets a steal, hits another bucket, cuts the lead down. Dylan Grant finally gets, I don't want to say he gets going, but he hits a bucket and ties it at 39. And heading down the stretch, it looked like this was going to be disastrous. The result was in the cards, as it looks like Penn would close things out, but the last couple minutes was kind of frantic. And, we get a Christmas miracle. Tariq, I want to say, hit 5 free throws down the stretch, which was big. We only hit like 66, 67% for the game. So early on, we were not good. And that's one of our bugaboos and a basket of things that when we don't do well in these categories, you can pretty much say that we're going to lose. But we finished, I think it was on an 11-3 run to finish out the game, including the final drama. And as I've talked about every video about basketball, the tale of two teams, the team that plays in a way where you have a tale of two halves, or a tale of, players, individual players, up and down, game to game, half to half. Tariq Francis, would he have 5 points against Seton Hall? He gets 34 against Penn. It's incongruous. We need to smooth out the edges and be a little more consistent. Whether it's Badalao, whether it's Dylan Grant, Harun Zerno, 15 points against Seton Hall. I think, what do you have, 4 last night, maybe 5 points last night? Not sure why. I mean, I have some ideas about how the scheming and the playing time and the rotating players in and out and the amount of minutes they get kind of creates this disjointed kind of production. I'm not sure that it's solely that. Maybe we just don't have the guys that play consistent enough just yet. Need to get more playing time. Not really sure why there's these wilds. Darren Buchanan, another guy, not super productive last night. So we have to smooth out those edges, and I think it's going to come down to finding a core. You can extend the rotation, but we need to find a guy or the guys that can best fulfill what it is that you want to do. And even if it's not defense and grinding and rebounding, which we don't do much of these days, and you want to get the young guys in there and have them shoot your way to an offensive kind of team, which didn't really work last year, but nonetheless, we may not have a choice because forget about the scoring, yada, yada, yada. We were fortunate to win last night, and I've said this in the past couple of videos, we're not a big team. We don't play physical. We don't play defense. But more importantly, we're just getting killed in the paint and on the boards. We were out-rebounded 42-29 by an Ivy. I mean, it's one thing if it's Princeton a couple years ago, they hit the free throws, hit the three-point shots. But when you're getting out-physicaled and out-rebounded by an Ivy, that's not a good sign. We were fortunate, despite getting out-rebounded, our teams in the past, and even a little bit now, when we play well, hitting the glass, we typically win. It's one thing to lose to a Princeton team that's a finesse team a couple years ago. It's another. If we would have lost this game last night and get out-rebounded by 13, we had 5 blocks, but Penn had 4. They should not be able to match up against us that well. Now, we hit those free throws. Tariq hit those free throws late and got our free throw percentage to 67%, but it would have been much worse for that if he didn't. Penn hit 72%, but again, Powers hit, missed 3 down the stretch. They probably should have done a little better. So we were a little lucky. Penn turned it over 14 times, and we scored 21 points off those turnovers. Penn only scored 5 points off turnovers. We had 8 steals to 1, and strangely enough, Penn committed more fouls, 24. We committed 17. And that's typically things that when we don't play as well as we should or we lose, those are things that we do. But Penn did those things. And we had 21 fast break points to Penn's 6. So that worked in our favor. Still only won by 1 point over an Ivy team. So I'm not going to throw any bouquets because if we don't match up physically, in addition to being able to execute some sort of offense and be more consistent, when the calendar flips and we go into the Big Ten schedule, things can get ugly. So that's where we are with that. In other news, we find an offensive line coach, and we find them before Christmas, but we're all waiting on the big news of a DC, and we also have portal goings on. We'll get to that in a second. I was ambivalent when I heard Flats that the contract wasn't being renewed. And what that means is that Rutgers really wants the coach, whoever it may be, to move on. And at the time, I felt Schiano better have somebody targeted, and they better be somebody good. If you're going to let a guy, I don't care if he's 69, whatever he is, it's only a few years older than me. Remember this offensive line, especially under Chris Asher, was horrendous. Our quarterbacks are running for their lives, and we turned into a team a couple years ago that only gives up, what we give up, 11, 12 sacks? Ironically, PFF kind of did not give our offensive line that year very good scores, but sometimes the advanced analytics can't see the forest through the trees. Nonetheless, we hired Jim Turner, no, not the Jets kicker from the mid and late 60s and Broncos in the early to mid 70s. He is an offensive line coach with an extensive coaching history. I want to say he's like 50 years old, maybe early 50s. So he still has some time. He's a little bit of controversy about him. We'll get some of that in a second. But he's been at a lot of stops. From Massachusetts, went to Boston College. I think he was a fullback and a captain on Boston College football team. Coached at Northeastern, coached at Harvard, coached at Temple, and coached at Delaware with Kirk Shiraka 2005, 2006. So that's probably where the relationship pipeline comes from. But that's 20 years ago, man. I mean, can you really make a decision based on that? I'm not really sure, but who knows? Maybe these guys are closer than we think. He's also been at Texas A&M, Texas State, Boston College. He was also at the Miami Dolphins for the infamous Richie Cognito controversy. We'll get to that in a second. New Orleans Breakers in the USFL and the Memphis Showboat. And I think he was an interim head coach. So there's a guy with some good experience in there. And Richie from the Night Report the other day was saying he was pumped up about it. Love this guy, love this, that he's kind of a fiery guy. But more importantly, he's put a lot of guys, offensive linemen in the NFL from the first couple rounds of top half of the draft, and he rattled off a bunch of guys, and that's always a good sign that you're getting guys and developing them, because we are a developmental program, but you want to see guys, especially in a day where we're not going to be able to compete monetarily, but you can get guys and develop them and continue the path that Flats started. So I'm not really concerned that there's a lot of stops on his resume, because when I look at coaching hires, whether it's the NFL or whether it's college, and you look at guys' resumes and their coaching records, and it's strange. And I thought about this the other day, where they don't let grass grow under their feet. Boy, a year, 2 years, and they're always moving on, and sometimes it's not a congruous move. Sometimes it's not just the next step on the ladder. They maybe go from Power 4 program to a Group of 5 program, or they go from the NFL to a Group of 5 program, or they go to Turner went to Texas State. Maybe sometimes you kind of it's not working out, and you want to move on. Maybe the university wants, the program wants to move on for them. So I think that's part and parcel about how uh, coaching is conducted these days, where it's all like the players. It's a lot about movement, especially when you look at the workforce today. It's something my father worked at the same company for 38 years. Nobody really does that anymore, especially younger workers. They don't want to grind away at a job that they don't love forever, so they move around. And that's part of the work dynamic these days, where people move around looking for the next opportunity. Maybe they just want to get out of where they were. So Turner has a lot of stops, a couple of them controversial, starting with the Richie Incognito bullying incident. And I'm kind of surprised. I'm not sure if this is the guy they were targeting. Richie and Mike were just saying today on the Night Report that they were kind of surprised by this. They didn't really see it, but maybe this is the kind of hire we have to make. And he is a productive coach with a good record, so I guess we have to give him his prop there. But that controversy with Jonathan Martin back 2012, 13, whatever it was. Back then, I felt this is a weird incident. A couple of 300-pound NFL players are there's bullying going on. I don't understand what's going on about with that. You have to kind of think about the time period and the political environment. Not to get political, but it's becoming a little more in tune with woke politics, and perhaps that situation was not what it seemed. I think this past year, Martin's mother came out and said, no, or Martin himself came out and said, no, it wasn't a bullying incident. That was a term my mother came up with. I was like, what? So there was a lawsuit by Incognito against the Wells Report, which was dismissed. And then another incident at Texas A&M where he was giving a talk. And I always thought about this being a college course that you can take for credit. Teaching about football and the complexities, just learning the offensive play calls is like calculus. But nonetheless, giving a talk in front of 700 people, had a slideshow, and apparently some of the presentations and the verbiage was some double entendre involved, and that was deemed unacceptable by Kevin Sumlin. So that was another controversial incident. Is he a saint? No, but he is a fiery, competitive guy who, quite frankly, has to keep those locker room mannerisms under wraps in the locker room, not out in the public. And if Greg Schiano, who runs a clean program and is never involved in any controversy himself, and finding out information of how he conducts his business behind the scenes is kind of like a state secret, I have confidence that Coach Schiano is confident that he'll be able to have Turner act accordingly and do what he needs to do to not only be productive, but to be a good citizen. Nonetheless, it's still, maybe they weren't interviewing the kind of, the guys that they interviewed and targeted didn't interview well. That's always a thing, even in real life. But I do trust, I hope it works out. And I hope Turner can be that fiery kind of leader and mold this group into a dominant position group and be a good citizen at the same time. Okay, Portal giveth, Portal taketh away. We're going to need to get some secondary guys. We lost Bo Masco a couple days ago. And, everybody felt after the Pinstripe Bowl against Miami. He was going to take the next step and he was going to be a guy, and that at times it did, but a lot of times it didn't. And I know the guys from the Night Report the other day feel that he's probably going to get paid what he's going to be overpaid for what it is that he brings to the table. I don't disagree with that. I think that's true. We also lose defensive back Orenik Darius out of Bosco, 3-star guy, 3-star, 4-star, depending whose ratings you listen to. Didn't get much playing time. He has 4 years of eligibility, so he probably wants to move on and probably wants to get paid. Expand the brand. That's what we're talking about these days with the portal coming up January 2nd. This is kind of exciting. It's almost like draft time, right? Your team stinks. You look forward to the draft. Hello, Giants and Jets. And even though I'm an old school guy, I like the idea of a portal because it allows you to fill needs, fill some holes, or to replace guys who you thought were going to work out that didn't work out. And it takes away, but there's opportunities there for you. It also can giveth to you if you can take advantage of some opportunities. What I don't love is the negotiating for pay dictating where players are going to go. NIL, name, image, likeness. If you have a legitimate business plan to, have your own hoodies and caps and hats and T-shirts, and people will buy it from you, and that's a source of income for you while you're getting a free education, okay, I'm okay with that. But this whole, well, this one wants this pay and that one wants that. I'm not down with that. I'm an old school kind of guy. But I do see player movement, guys being able to go to the university and play football where they want to play. I feel, that's okay. They should be able to do that. Although you should be able to get into the university. It shouldn't just be, a financial signing of the contract. Nonetheless, Bo Masco and offensive lineman John Stone also moves on. The one I was kind of sad to see is linebacker Sam linebacker Washington. Coaches liked him. He was right. They spoke glowingly about him and that he was going to be a future guy and a guy that you can see taking the next step. And I don't know if it's a playing time thing. We play that 2 linebacker system, but guys are always hurt. So, having a rotational guy in there would be able to get some playing time. He saw action in 10 games this year, which was a decent amount. And he had a pretty, very good recruiting list. Does this mean DJ McClary and Kamar Archie are ready to step in? I hope that's the case. We need all the help we can get, especially on defense. I'm kind of looking forward to January 2nd when the portal opens. Mike and Richie and Alec today were talking about potential. We need secondary help for sure. Looking at a guy from Dayton, Virginia Tech, UCF, potentially. They also inferred, and we know this is going to happen because you can see the momentum building towards, there's March Madness. Well, this is going to be January Madness, Portal Madness, where there's going to be a lot of movement. There's going to be some surprises, some that aren't a surprise, and maybe there's some surprises on the receiving end. Oh, we got this guy. Okay, so hopefully, portal season should be interesting and fascinating, and I'm going to be watching it. And that means, I don't have much time these days to spend a lot of time on X, but I'll be watching the updates. The other big thing is, will we have, if this defensive coordinator search drags out and you don't have a guy by January 2nd, the window, the time frame is not great. We know how particular Greg Schiano is, but that also limits his ability to get somebody outside the family who may not have a lot of faith in the Rutgers program or know Greg Schiano very well and are a little bit ambivalent about a guy that is very detail-oriented and apparently doesn't micromanage like he used to, but it could be a grinder, a guy that he expects you to put in the work and put in the hours. And so if we're going to go to the Schiano relationship tree once again, that might slow down the process and limit our candidates. We'll see how that goes. But, you know, we lose, you know, there have been a lot of candidates talked about, and a lot of them have kind of moved on. And, you know, there was one, you know, I've talked in past videos about a few different guys, including, yes, James Madison, defensive coordinator Colin Hitchler, who was on my list. But he generally, not unexpectedly, he goes to UCLA following, follows Bob, head coach, his former head coach now, current head coach Bob Chesney, who I thought might have been a possible, and I'm getting all kinds of messages while doing this, and it's kind of annoying me. Follows Bob Chesney to UCLA, but look, James Madison, especially in that first half against Oregon, Oregon put up 51 on James Madison. That shouldn't be a huge surprise. And it got better in the second half. Would they have Oregon have 34 points in the first half, and you think, yeah, no, this is not a good thing. Group of 5 schools should not be in the playoffs. Yes, Notre Dame got ripped off, for sure. And, you know, James Madison's one game against a Power 4 program was a loss to Louisville. Louisville, who started off pretty good, didn't end up so good. So, you know, what were they, 7-5, whatever they were, 8-4, Louisville. So, nonetheless, James Madison coming off a little bit of a rough defensive performance, but he will be going to UCLA with Bob Chesney as the Big Ten. You know, they're getting stronger with these coaching hires of Fitzgerald at Michigan State. We'll see if what happens with Michigan or even Wisconsin. So we'll keep an eye on potential DCs, other football news, props to our guy, Kyle Monangai, having a great year with the Chicago Bears, going to the playoffs. 731 yards he has, 5 touchdowns, averaging 4.7 yards per carry, has 14 catches, 140 yards, averaging 10 yards per catch, which is pretty good. If he had gotten playing time earlier in the year, maybe started a few games, he'd probably be on target for 1,000 yards, which would have been tremendous. I knew, and many of us knew, that he was eventually going to work his way into the lineup. He was going to be that under-the-radar guy who just grinded away. And before you know it, he's inserted into the lineup and being productive and becoming a starter, although he's splitting time right now. But nonetheless, props to Kyle Monangai. Everybody enjoy a fantastic holiday season, Christmas week. We'll see what happens if there's any sort of defensive coordinator news or any sort of portal news. We have, was it Delaware State? Was it Monday, January 29th in basketball? You know, you need to get to 7-6, because then the big, we head into the part of the schedule with the big boys, and I have a feeling that if we get to 10 wins, that was going to be about our ceiling. Nonetheless, everybody, very happy holidays to you all. Merry Christmas, and we'll see you the next time.